You heard that, recording in progress. Welcome, welcome to the last real class of the semester. And I really do appreciate everybody who's trying, because it's been a bumpy ride for all of us going back and forth on this COVID stuff. And I'm a little behind on grading because I have this like cold that's just hard to shake, but it's not COVID or anything. Hope you all have a lovely, lovely holiday. We have here, what we do is getting ready for the test. Test is really still 2 weeks away. Or 1 week, yeah, 1 week away. It's due Friday, December 3rd, but it goes online Wednesday, December 1st at 8 a.m. I have made the questions. They come largely from this. I think I may have a movie question or two that aren't on this, but pretty much everything here will be on the test. So, real straightforward, holding to what we do in class and all the readings and stuff. Again, open book, open everything, unlimited time. So you all should do fine. Anyway, okay. Finishing up media history, 20th century. What was the status of media ethics at the beginning of the 20th century? Ethics didn't really exist. Anything goes. Ethics began to be and I will post this, be a consideration in the early 20th century. We'll talk about that. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about that right now. Ada Vox from Chattanooga. He owned the Chattanooga Times, and his family is still in town. The Times and idea of ethical media. That's fit. That was his slogan. Still wondering what fit means today. What fit means, again, started here. Bought the New York Times and said, hey, we're going to be ethical. What ethics is, still figuring that out. Why did it evolve? Two reasons. One, to stand out in the messy market. They wanted to be different. Two, realization that media is powerful and something power. Up to that time they didn't care, but in the late 19th century, folks started thinking, boy, this media thing is big and powerful. We should do something about that. Codes of ethics, strengths gives guidelines and ideas of what's good or bad. Weakness, no enforcement power. Purely voluntary. That is, yeah, it's great to have a code of ethics, but there's no ethics police out there. So ultimately, you have to police yourself. Who decides and enforces media ethics? Media outlets themselves. Audience. If the audience thinks something's too violent, people aren't going to post it or put it online or broadcast it. But ultimately, it's personal choices. You can choose to be ethical or not. And it's like that in the media. It's like that in the real world. In areas like ethical areas, like violence is a legal issue, is an ethical issue. Violence, diversity, those are kind of things that are ethical. Truth. Nothing says, there's no law that says what you see in the media has to be true. And anybody who's looked at social media lately, you know that. Who invented radio? Lots of people worked on it, but Marconi put it together. Really, this is one case where one person, Guillermo Marconi, really invented radio. But Marconi wanted radio to be like the telegraph, point to point. One message from one person to another. Lee DeForest and David Sarnoff thought the same technology could reach a wide audience, thus broadcasting, casting over a broad net, using that same technology in a different way. DeForest was a bit of a crook. We're not sure what he invented, but he did come up with the idea of broadcasting to a wider audience. David Sarnoff had the same idea separately, but he found ways to do it by starting RCA and then, and we'll get to that, RCA and then NBC. Edward Howard Armstrong made radio practical, and he invented FM. So that was, good radio that you can hear and listen to, was practical. We'll get back to what happened to him. David Sarnoff. David Sarnoff he was Marconi's assistant Marconi's. He invented or founded RCA, the Radio Corporation of America. He manufactured the radios before there was much to put on the radio. If you have this box, you're going to find something to put on it. So that was something that then founded NBC. He didn't invent anything, but he did have ideas. Okay, if you had a technology first, you will find ways to use it. You had the radio, you may as well turn it on and get something. Same thing with the iPhone. Who knew you wanted a phone that did everything until you saw one? Same thing with an iPad. Coming up with the technology first and the market for it later. Again, Sarnoff really did that. Steve Jobs did it later. If we have free speech, why was the FCC created? Federal Communications Commission? Because the airwaves are a limited resource. not everybody can be channel 7. So to use that privilege, you have to get a license. And just like a driver's license, if you abuse the privilege, you can lose your license. So it's not about broadcasting per se, it's about having that spot on the dial. Broadcasting effect on other media killed the phonograph record market and also live entertainment. Why go to a theater and see a vaudeville show when you could just turn on the radio? Same thing with the phonograph. Why buy a record when you can sit in your house? Advantage of the radio network, invented by Sarnoff. You own a radio station. In the old days, you'd have to hire your own announcers, your own musicians, your own comedians, your own shows. If you have the network, you just plug into the network and they give it for you for rent. So it's much cheaper. What program genres all came from radio? Quiz shows, sitcoms, police shows. All the stuff we see on TV and a lot on the movies came from radio. Why did NBC not pursue FM radio in the 1930s when they could have? Because Sarnoff was working on television. He was going to retool his radio stations to be TV stations. Why have another form of radio? So anyway, why did they break NBC into 2 networks? Because it was a monopoly. And they're looking at doing that with Facebook, which owns Instagram and other stuff. Same with movie studios. In 1948, they broke up. The movie studios could not own a theater. That way, again, you couldn't control everything people saw. How did TV affect radio? Shows went to TV. Radio takes up music. You know, they brought back the industry that they nearly killed. They almost put record companies out of business. They came back because the radio needed to put something on the air. What effects did rock and roll put American music to a wider audience? About sexuality. So you're starting to hear different voices and different ideas. Youth culture. Before rock and roll, everyone listened to the same stuff. In the 1950s, young people started listening to their own, their own music, and that was rock music. What does it do in society today? News and entertainment, background, it's always there. Podcasting is kind of radio because it's still listening. Who invented television? Lots of folks worked on it. Baird in the UK had mechanical TV. Farnsworth in the US had electronic TV. Yes, he invented electronic television we use today. You had a Baird in England and others had this mechanical system that had a lot of wheels and discs and things like that. Farnsworth had the 72 dots an inch electronic system. So his thing was the one we currently use. Sarnoff used promoted TV, put NBC shows on TV. He gave you the network to watch TV. Vladimir Zworykin worked with Sarnoff to create electronic TV. He's often credited with inventing it, but Farnsworth owned the patent. See, since Zworykin worked for NBC, Sarnoff wanted to say, hey, we invented it. And they tried to make sure no one's ever heard of Philo Farnsworth. This is why I mentioned him in this course. He got there first. He got shut out. But, you know, Zworykin worked on it with Sarnoff. To free station licenses, to standardize technology, ethics, rules. So they wanted to make sure everyone had the right screen, that they knew what the expectations are to have a TV station language license, making it hard to drop an F-bomb. But you can't do that with the internet because the internet is international and it doesn't work like broadcasting. We'll get to that. How did TV affect other media? Again, radio went to music, movie attendance. So TV became the thing. How did TV affect sports? The NFL. Harder to film them. Football's perfect for television. You have 3 minutes of action and a break. Similar to the NBA, you just park the camera under the basket and let it come to you. Hockey and soccer, not as easy. Politics. To look, sound, and dress well. Speaking sound bites. Keep it short and pithy. We saw the Kennedy-Nixon debates. Nixon was wearing a brown suit on a brown background. He had no makeup and he was sweating. Kennedy had great hair. He had a blue suit and a brown background and he was sharp. He looked better on TV, on radio. They said they were about the same. Since then, politicians all have to dress well. They have to have good hair and say things in short, pithy sentences. It's hard to do monetary policy or science on television in short bits. How did TV news affect the Vietnam War? Unfettered journalists, no rules, brought back negative images of US soldiers. citizens turned against the war. They saw bad things. And they said, no, we don't want we don't want to be part of this when our soldiers are doing bad things. How did cable become prominent? Ted Turner of Atlanta bought a spot on again, existing technologies. Communications satellite was already up there as a phone. It was a phone satellite. Bounced TBS signals. In the past, you could, cable only runs from the station to somebody's house. With the satellite, you could beam it anywhere. How did MTV present culture? Made music and culture visual. You had to have a look. Ask Taylor Swift. #1 song, longest #1 song since Don McLean's American Pie in 1972. Having more cable channels, more choice meant morals, ideas were you had Fox News came out in the 90s, a different perspective than the mainstream media. So people started to disagree. You didn't always have the same information. Why did reality TV arise? Because the writers went on strike and producers wanted programs without scripts to fill up the time. So you got Survivor, The Bachelor, and and The Apprentice. And we know what happened with the guy with The Apprentice, just because the writers went on strike. Streaming services and alternatives. Viewership went down, more sex and violence because it wasn't broadcast. You don't need to have a broadcast license to make a porno or a really violent movie or tape. Who invented the internet? The US government invented the internet in case of war, we would have a decentralized communication network. It was all from the Cold War. Why don't we police or regulate the internet? Because it's not a limited resource like the broadcast dial. So anybody could have a web page. So it's not such a limited resource like being a TV channel or a radio station. So anybody could do it. Plus, so much of it is international. You shut down something here, it's going to come in from China or Europe. Internet stuff failed because there was no people invested, but no money came in. Still a problem today. making money on the internet. Comes down to advertising. The more viewers you get, the more they can charge for advertising. Everybody and their mother seems to have a YouTube channel. YouTube, owned by Facebook. The more people on your channel, the more they can charge for advertising. So advertising works, other things do not. Net neutrality, the concept of having the internet open to anybody equally big or small. Abandoned in 2017, giving us Disney Plus. It's not a bad thing, but you log on to Disney Plus and it's all Disney all the time. There's no room for anybody else if you want to do something independent. Thomas Friedman said the world is flat, meaning we are all connected instantly anywhere on the globe. As I mentioned, I have relatives in Australia, in Russia, and in England. And through social media, I could say hello all the time. I post a cat picture and I have a like from Oksana Zibluk in, where is Oksana? She's in Moldova, near Romania. Have I ever met Oksana Zibluk? No, but she's my Facebook friend and she knows I have cats. So yes, the world is flat. Oksana sees my Facebook immediately. Magic bullet theory assumes media has powerful direct effects. Propaganda, use of media to propagate ideas. Not a bad thing. Started using it in World War I. Term invented by Benito Mussolini. I'm not going to ask that, but just to let you know who's behind it, your friendly neighborhood fascists. What happened with the US government allowed a limited access to the Vietnam War? Journalists brought back violent images, turning people against. What happened now? It's more limited access. You have to be with, you can't just run around. You have to be with an army or Navy battalion. They see what they can control what you see. You have one person go out telling everybody else what's going on. That's pool reporting. It's not the same as Vietnam. Huh. Okay. I will save that. Answers, post it. Any other questions, answers? I promise to get back by the end of the week, the grading on papers, quizzes, all of that. If you have issues with that or the tests, let me know. I will get through it. And we're here to work with you. It has been fun working with you. I know we've had our ups and downs, but I think it's been fun. It's been great getting to know several of you as much as I can. as much as we can this way. I hope we be in touch. Hope you all have a lovely break. Yes, Jake, thank you. And thank everybody for putting up with the ups and downs of doing all this online stuff. You guys have been super. We have a wonderful holiday, and I'll talk at you hopefully soon. All right. Have a great holiday.